Hello and welcome. Come along as I take my Rossmonster Baja on the Maiden Voyage from Longmont, Colorado through Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Washington State, Oregon and back into California. The Maiden Voyage took about 3 weeks and it was part pleasure, part work. I have a remote job and can work from home, and that's what I built this for. Set up camp in really nice locations like here on an abandoned airstrip in the desert of California, and then turn on Starlink and work my day job as if I would be sitting at home. With that being said, let's go and hit the road. Yeah, this is the beginning. This is the maiden voyage of my new expedition vehicle. I picked it up in Longmont, Colorado yesterday and spent the night locally in the Longmont area, camping of course. And well, this morning I turned the vehicle north and I'm heading deep into Wyoming to the Bighorn National Forest for another night of camping, and then from there I want to work my way up to Bozeman. But yeah, this is the maiden voyage. I'm sitting in the new expedition vehicle, and you might be wondering, okay, show it to us, what does it look like? Well, that's coming. Most people probably expect Wyoming to look like what they see for Yellowstone National Park up in the northwestern corner of the state. But if you come from Colorado and you drive north into Wyoming on Interstate 25, well, this is what Wyoming looks like for a long, long time. I followed I-25 all the way till Buffalo in northern Wyoming and then left the interstate to drive down into the Bighorn National Forest. I went specifically to the Middle Fork campground and found a nice campsite with a creek in the back. There were some good hiking or walking, I don't want to call it trails, it was like a dirt road, but that way I could also take Shelby for her walks and enjoyed not having to drive. It was a long driving day coming from Longmont, as you can imagine. It was a brisk but beautiful morning, and I decided to spend a little more time here, and I went to Loaf Mountain Overlook, which is probably nothing famous, but it was really a nice view and a really nice drive through the Bighorn National Forest. I left the Loaf Mountain Overlook and worked my way back to the interstate. I wanted to make the short drive to Sheridan and check out that cute little town that it is. Part of this trip is that I wanted to check out a few places to see if that's potentially a good location for my next home base. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Sheridan. It's checking quite a few boxes for me, and it's a cute little town. So I will show you here in a moment. Just got into Sheridan, Wyoming. It's a beautiful morning. Beautiful area. When I came from I-90, I saw the elk fire. And just a little north, I don't know if you can see it here, you can see the colors of the smoke. So that's where I will have to drive through. But taking Shelby for a walk, there she is, and enjoying the fall colors a little bit that are coming up over there. Beautiful fall colors here. I love it. Not used to that from Southern California. Very beautiful. Beautiful creek here. The colors are just impressive. Here I'm driving down Main Street, Sheridan, and it reminded me of different times when the world looked very different, more peaceful. Sheridan once had a trolley system with streetcars that were operated between 1911 and 1926, and then it was retired due to the rise of automobile usage. I find that very interesting with the trolley system. I mean, public transportation in the US is just so non-existent, and this is a prime example for it. It also looks like that a lot of the historic hotel buildings are still standing, but they have been converted to other business space. I saw the buildings of the former Trail Hotel and the Western Hotel. Main Street looked very clean and well maintained. Flower pots hanging on light poles, trees along Main Street. It really gives it a certain feel of like hometown USA. I saw only a very small number of newer buildings along Main Street, but lots of restored and well maintained older buildings. Kudos to Sheridan. Sheridan seems to have put a lot of effort into maintaining the small town flair, and Main Street, I think, is a perfect example of that. I did not record it, but I drove through some older residential neighborhoods and I was really impressed with how clean and beautiful it was. So many trees and the colors were changing at that time. It was very beautiful. I have not decided yet if Sheridan will become my future home base, but it has a lot of things speaking for it, but unfortunately also a few things against it. To be determined. On my way back to the interstate, I had to wait for a freight train to go through town. As I was getting out of my truck to look around, I saw this beautifully restored locomotive standing here in Sheridan. Once back on the interstate, I noticed this smoke cloud cover in the distance, and little did I know, but I would have to drive almost an hour through smoke from this wildfire, which was not fun. I'm about 90 miles east of Bozeman and probably 30 miles west of Billings. Billings was like, at least South Billings, felt so industrial. I don't know how the other parts of town look like, but there seemed to be like a refinery right next to the highway and just lots of industrial stuff. So I didn't like that too much. But again, this was South Billings, so I don't know how the rest of that city looks like. But yeah, ever since leaving Billings, after I would say like 10, 20 miles maybe, locals may be able to correct me, the scenery has really changed and I really like how this looks like. The hills are getting a little steeper and higher, there are more trees. It's really beautiful here, so I'm really enjoying the last few minutes of this drive here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to making it to Bozeman and meeting up with a friend, and then of course explore Montana a little bit more and yeah, see what the state has to offer. I'm on my way to Butte, Montana. Last night I camped west of Bozeman on BLM land. Yesterday afternoon I had visited a friend and his wife that live near Bozeman, and he took me to this BLM land area, and we found a nice campsite. It was very windy, it was very warm and dusty, but overall we met the first time in person. We only knew each other online, and so we had a great time. We talked the night away and enjoyed the company, enjoyed the scenery and the common interest that we have. The Baja did great in the strong wind and wind gusts last night. The truck shook a tiny little bit, but from a noise level I could barely hear that there was wind outside, so it was fantastic to be able to go camping in those type of conditions and not really have to deal with the weather from that perspective. My next destination was Butte in Montana. At the edge of the city lies one of America's most striking industrial landmarks, the Berkeley Pit. If you don't know anything about the Berkeley Pit, this is a massive former open-pit copper mine. It stretches a mile wide and is filled with approximately 40 billion gallons of acidic water. Mining operations here began in 1955 and continued all the way to 1982. That's when the groundwater pumps were turned off and the pit began to fill with toxic water. Today the Berkeley Pit serves as a cautionary tale and as a testament to Butte's mining history. The water, tinged with rich copper colors, contains high concentrations of heavy metals and chemicals. It's creating what scientists call a unique but very hazardous ecosystem. While beautiful in its own stark way, the pit requires constant monitoring and environmental management. After visiting the Berkeley mine, I took some time driving through downtown Butte. And Butte is a cute little town. There was a street fest going on. They had part of the main street blocked off for vendors and whatever else. And yeah, lots of old history here with cool buildings, well maintained in most areas. And really had that hometown USA feel the same way that Sheridan had it to me. It reminds me of a different time in America when the world was different, a little more stable, less busy. And yeah, these smaller little towns have that flair that is gone from all the larger cities. and larger populated areas. So from that perspective, Butte, cute little town, I'm pretty sure I will come back at one point and explore the area a little more. So I'm on this dirt road here on my way to Hamilton from Phillipsburg in Montana. Met these forest workers because there was a sign the trail may be closed. Whoa, 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 whoa. Too many washboards. And I don't know if they're messing with me or not, so they said, no, I will make it through. We'll find out, but wish me luck. Well, this is camp for the night. It took a little longer to find the spot, but the views definitely don't suck. I'm not sure yet if I move down there towards the water, but I think I'll stay here. It's nice and flat. The view is good. There's nobody here, so that is very much appreciated. And the best thing is, it's free. Just moments after I had turned off the camera, a group of local teenagers arrived for their Saturday night party. I packed up my stuff and left to find camp somewhere else. I'm on my way to Sandpoint, Idaho today, and I'm driving up from Missoula, Montana. Saw this sign for a dam overlook overview, and well, it's all right. Just think that crane would not be here, it would be looking really nice. So this is the upper overlook, and apparently there's a lower overlook. I will check that out here in a moment. But I checked out the lower overlook for this dam, but it wasn't that impressive. Nice area, that's for sure. But anyway, it was time for me to continue on with my trek towards Idaho. The drive along the Clark Fork River on the 200 towards Idaho is very beautiful. I can highly recommend that you check it out. In Idaho, I saw these stone pits. There were like 2 or 3 when you come from Montana. And they were all surrounded or storing very old vehicles. I found that a little bit weird and very interesting too. So I decided to stop and check out some of these older vehicles. Very cool stuff. I did not spend a lot of time in Sandpoint, Idaho. The town just didn't connect with me. There wasn't really the warm, fuzzy feeling that I had with Sandpoint. And so I carried on to Coeur d'Alene. Driving along Lake Coeur d'Alene and then getting into the city of Coeur d'Alene, very beautiful area. I liked how green everything is in Coeur d'Alene, lots of trees downtown everywhere. So a very nice, very clean city from what I can tell. I spent several hours in Coeur d'Alene exploring, but also going to grocery stores, filling my tank with gasoline, and then started making my way towards the campsite that I had mapped out about half an hour outside of Coeur d'Alene. So yesterday I had just set up camp and started filming when everything went down the drain, because where I was camping was not a good place. The local youth whatever showed up, and it turned into a wild nightmare of I don't know what it was, but I packed my stuff, I left, and I couldn't find a right campsite. I used iOverlander, and the first set I showed up was a no-go. The second one, I don't know, and the third one finally worked, and it was some sort of an overlook, but yeah, a glorious overlook right next to the highway, but overall it was okay. But today is the complete opposite, and I started taking camp early, or looking for camp early, and the campsite that I had marked via GPS on Google Earth was of course taken. So I was actually in the national forest here outside of Coeur d'Alene, and I just kept driving on this forest road, and found a couple sites. The next nice one was taken, but then it started looking more promising. Some of those campsites were overgrown, so I wouldn't have not been able to get Starlink up and running, so I kept on driving, and then I ended up here. And this campsite really makes up for the situation from yesterday. I took camp early. It's just like 3:30 in the afternoon right now. Maybe it's 4 at this point. I've been hanging out here and really enjoying just the quiet time. There's nobody on this forest road. 2 guys came by and also a bicyclist, but it's Sunday afternoon, so most people are already heading home for the weekend. And then I found this open area right next to the forest road, which is fine because there's nobody here, and the views are just outstanding. So here you can see Shelby's already hunkering down in the shade. She feels warm in the sun. It's like 65 degrees, so it's not too bad, but she enjoys being in the shade, and that's fine. So here's camp. I got the roof up. I didn't do the awning out. I don't think I need it. It's really nice with 65 degrees, a light breeze, and then this view. And yeah, if I walk down this forest road just like 50 yards, I can actually see Lake Coeur d'Alene. And I think I should be in the right spot for a really nice sunshine. So the sun is currently there. And like I said, it must be around 4 o'clock. Let me double check. It's 4:34 actually. So I should be in for a decent sunset. But the views are just like, I hear the breeze going through the trees. This is partially a burn area. There was the 2 guys that were here earlier. They were collecting firewood. They had their pickup truck loaded with firewood for the winter, and nothing wrong with that. But if I look into that direction now, let's see, I should be almost there, but you can see Lake Coeur d'Alene. So hopefully it will be a nice sunset. And then I'm also hoping, I have never seen the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, and it's a clear sky. Hi, Shelby! Shelby's following me because she's thinking I'm walking away. So I'm almost at the point where I can see Lake Coeur d'Alene. It's just beautiful here. So I'm really super stoked that after yesterday's misery, today is significantly better. And there's the lake coming. Yeah, I know I don't have a camera with a telelens, but trust me, it's a great view, and you can see it here. This is just outstanding. All right, I'm heading back towards Shelby. We already walked here earlier, and she's tired. Driving always makes her tired. She is not able to get her beauty sleep while I'm driving, and it has nothing to do with my driving. She's just a little anxious when I drive, and that's normal. So she's usually exhausted when we get to camp, and then she just likes to nap for the rest of the day. So, and here she was just concerned that I'm leaving her alone, which is not the case, Shelby. You know that I'm not leaving you alone. There she is. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to the truck. That afternoon, I lost my drone due to the wind pushing it into a tree. And you can see here that poor thing is hanging up there, still blinking, looking for me, asking for help. And there was nothing I could do. It was just too high up. I had hoped for some strong winds overnight, but nothing had happened. And the next morning, I had to leave the drone behind. But now it was time for the sunset, and you can see here on those pictures the sun was setting nicely behind the trees, and the light was just beautiful that evening. I really enjoyed my time at this specific campsite, and even the sunrise the following morning did not suck. It was really a perfect spot. Again, I camped here on a Sunday to a Monday. So on a busy weekend from Friday to Sunday, you'd probably have to expect more traffic. But on a Sunday to Monday, perfect spot. I left the national forest early in the morning and then turned the truck westbound on Interstate 90 towards Spokane, passed through Spokane, and then into Washington. In Washington, this really brought memories back to me from 1988. I had driven here on my very first US-Canada road trip in 1988 with some friends, and we drove exactly the same area, and we ended up at exactly the same overlook, looking down at the beautiful Columbia River. Here you can see me as a young lad in 1988. I'm on the far right side of this picture. I made it into Seattle to visit my friend Michelle. Before taking a ferry to the Olympic Peninsula, I stopped at Whole Foods and was pleasantly surprised that the Rossmonster Baja fit into compact parking. Almost as good as a Prius, isn't it? I left Seattle via ferry from Edmonds to Kingston, and from Kingston I took the 104 toward Port Angeles. I wanted to check out Port Angeles as a potential home base for me. I mentioned this before in the video. I'm kind of undecided where I want to live in the future, and Port Angeles is a tiny little bit drier than other parts of Washington State. Plus there's the ferry to Canada, and overall it's a good location, plus no state income tax in Washington State. I also wanted to meet my good friend Sean in Port Angeles, and so it was well worth the drive. Sean travels full-time in his Supertramp camper on a Chevy heavy-duty pickup truck. We had lunch together and then we parted ways later on. I went further south to set up camp for my first official 2 work days, working from the Baja for my day job. The campsite I had researched before was beautiful. Surrounded by trees, I was protected from wind and almost on top of the mountain. I could just literally walk 100, 200 yards maybe, and I had a perfect view down to the Pacific Ocean. When I opened the door the next morning, I could barely see the trees that were surrounding us. It was foggy and cold and a little bit windy. Shelby was not impressed with the weather, and so we went for some shorter walks just to get the necessary stuff taken care of, and then we just waited for nicer weather. The nicer weather never came, and so we waited till the next day. I had to work anyway, so it was not a big deal. The next day was much nicer. Shelby went outside into the sunshine and just was frolicking and enjoying herself. Last night at my campsite here, it's Friday night. I worked here for 2 days, and this evening I'm rewarded with this sunset behind me. Holy cow, the colors are just fantastic. So cool. The next morning I left quite early heading towards Crater Lake when I came across this really overgrown house on the side of the street. Completely overgrown property. There's even a house. Completely overgrown. Crater Lake in Oregon is one of the most stunning natural wonders here in the United States. It is known for its deep blue color and the incredible clarity of the water. So here are some facts and highlights about Crater Lake. Crater Lake was formed 7,700 years ago when Mount Mazama, a large volcano here in the Cascade Range, erupted and then collapsed, leaving a massive caldera. Over time, rain and snow filled the caldera, creating the lake as we see it today. Crater Lake is about 1,943 feet deep, and it's the deepest lake in the United States and the 7th deepest lake in the world. After leaving Crater Lake, I started working my way into California. I had a couple of campsites marked in the, I want to say, loose north of Redding type of area, but in the mountains, beautiful landscape, and that was the remainder of the day. It was a beautiful day, beautiful drive. The road later on turned to dirt. I did not film that, but overall it was just a fantastic day of driving and exploring. So I just took the dog for a walk. I'm here at a campsite slightly northwest of Redding. I came here actually later in the afternoon yesterday. My first site that I had in mind did not work out. And so the next one that I found on iOverlander was about 45 minutes away. Came to that site yesterday and that was a disappointment. So this is a very curvy and narrow forest road. And I mean, this section here is fairly big, but up until here, it was really a very narrow forest road. And the spot that was marked on iOverlander was like in a sharp turn and just like an extension of the road where the individuals had marked the site as good. And for me, it was just like thinking this is in a dark area. I see a drunk driver coming down the road, going way too fast through the forest and hitting my rig in this sharp turn. So that was a no-go for me. Plus there was not enough space really for Shelby to hang out. There's Shelby, she's walking with me. So I decided to keep on driving down the forest road, and about a mile, 1.5 miles later, I ran into this opening, because that was one thing for me. I need an opening, I need the ability to recharge my batteries through solar. I need a Starlink connection that does not necessarily require North. I have the high performance dish. Yeah, and I found this open section here, and there are a couple of fire rings, even though this is like a very dry area, so I don't know why somebody would make a fire here, but I mean, we see a lot of wildfires anyway. So, but yeah, I drove up here and yeah, this fit the bill at least for today. I will relocate this afternoon. Just I'm in this canyon. I'm not getting enough solar production. I had hoped to stay here till Wednesday, but yeah, I'm using too much battery power with Starlink and working with 2 computers. So I will relocate this afternoon. But yeah, this is a nice campsite where I'm parked. It's not visible from the road, so if you look this way here, so that's where the road goes, and it's really impossible to see my rig hiding behind the trees. So there's my rig coming, but there's a campsite that is here. There's the remains of a fire ring, and there's another campsite in here, and then it goes up this slight little hill. And that's where I'm camped. So there's the remains of a fire rink, and definitely somebody had a fire here. The truck is nicely in the sun, but you can see the canyon walls up in the back. So the sun disappeared early yesterday. The mountain up on top was really nicely lit by the sun going down, but it meant this morning that sunshine is coming in late, and it was also darker than it normally would be in a non-canyon area, let me say it this way. So that's why I'm relocating, but the site itself otherwise is fine. I mean, there are a few bugs and it's fine. It's probably 75 degrees outside, and I would stay here under normal circumstances, but I think I relocate. Tonight I found another nice area, and at least then I can stay probably till Thursday, maybe drive or relocate on Thursday just a little bit. But yeah, that's the story from last night. It was not a long day of driving. I went to Crater Lake from my previous campsite, did the West Rim Drive in Crater Lake, and then came out here. So this is really just a quick update on where I'm camping. I used iOverlander to find the original site and then just carried on. I had Starlink on already while driving because there's 0 cell phone reception in the overall area. Even where I was yesterday at my very first site that turned out to be a bust, there was no cell phone reception. So Starlink and InMotion usage of Starlink is just perfect. It really helped a lot yesterday. All I had to do was just fire up Starlink, plug the phone into the truck actually. And that's one thing I did not like about what happened yesterday. So I'm using the wireless Android Auto connection to the truck. But when I turn on Starlink, Starlink and Android Auto will compete with each other, and the truck always wins. So it makes it very difficult to pull up instructions. But the truck has a USB port up front that is also for system updates. And I plugged it in, and then the phone connected Android Auto via cable, and the wireless connected to Starlink, and I was able to pull up my routing for the other spot. I had these spots mapped out, so I usually try to find 3 or 4 spots that I have a backup, and then I carry on if the first one doesn't work. So, and that was what happened yesterday, but I needed Starlink. So I'm here at the Chase Water Winery and Olive Mill, a great Harvest Host location. I signed up for Harvest Host a few days ago just to have additional options of where I'm going to go and camp. And I just came back from a wine tasting. You see the results of that here. But yeah, it's a great place for camping. I'm in Kelseyville, California, just a little northwest actually of Sacramento. And it's a great place. Shelby's exploring. I don't know if you can see it here on the screen, but there are some Canadian geese flying by. Last night, this field in the distance, there were a couple hundred Canadian geese, and these guys are landing over here. So that was the maiden voyage with my Rossmonster Baja. I'm super excited and super happy that everything turned almost out perfect. Especially the work from home situation on the road with Starlink and setting up camp, it was great. There were a few minor adjustments that I made since then, but overall it was a very successful trip. And with that, I'm super stoked to take more adventures like here. I'm out at an abandoned military airstrip in the desert of California. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so as well. And then I will see you next time in my next video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.